All right, so Anderson Silva's here. So we, after last night, we were a little shell-shocked and trying to regroup. And Anderson Silva called me, Dan Henderson called me, and Gegard Mousasi was really, really interested in doing this fight too. Obviously each guy presented different problems. Gegard has a fight on UFC 200, so we'd be leaving, a guy who prepared and got ready, for his fight with Gegard with no opponent, which I hate. And then Dan Henderson, called and wanted the fight, and I appreciate that, but we got plans for Dan. Then Anderson Silva wanted the fight, and he hadn't gone through any medicals. So had gallbladder surgery a couple months ago and hadn't done any of the medicals, which is almost impossible. I mean, if you ask somebody, if we were trying to get medicals done for Anderson Silva on a Monday, the week of the fight, or any fighter, it's next to impossible. But so a lot of people got together and pulled this thing off. Anderson went through all his medicals, passed with flying colors, and he is here, and he will fight Daniel Cormier tomorrow, or Saturday, on UFC 200.
Anderson, do you feel in physical condition? Obviously, Daniel had a hard training camp, is in great shape. What kind of condition are you in to contend with one of the best fighters in the world?
Yeah, I think I'm in good shape, and I don't want Daniel or anyone else to think that I'm underestimating her, coming in here to try to challenge a champion. I'm not doing any of that. I'm here to challenge myself, and I think that I haven't trained in a few months, but I think I'm in a good condition to go in there and put on a good fight.
His wrestling is obviously a big factor. Does that concern you going into the fight, given you haven't had a chance to drill against that for a long time?
If I was worried, I couldn't be here tonight and announcing this. So a fight's a fight, and I've gone through a lot. I've gone through a lot of bad things in my fights in the UFC, so anything can happen, but I'm prepared.
Dana, a couple for you. Number one, I know any fighter in Nevada, 35 or older, has to go through that special thing. So how did you get around that? Because
we didn't.
So what happened?
He had to do all those tests that they have to do. We got it all done in one day. That's nuts.
Okay. And then how competitive do you expect Anderson to be able to be, given he had gallbladder surgery, hasn't been training, and he's fighting, arguably the number 2 or 3 guy in the world?
Let me tell you what, we just walked in here from a fight that just ended in the first round. Nobody, the way that he just finished, anything can happen in this sport. Bisping came in on 11 days and knocked out Luke Rockhold, who destroyed him in their first fight. Anything is possible in a fight.
And my last question is for you, and Anderson obviously has a big name, a Hall of Fame type fighter. Do you think that this makes up for the loss of John Jones in terms of pay-per-view sales and the buzz around the card?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, fun fight. Listen, Anderson Silva's undefeated at 205, and not just undefeated, devastatingly undefeated. Every time he's moved up to 205, he looked even better than he did at 85, which is crazy.
Was part of this for you, Anderson, and you making the decision, just the historical importance of UFC 200?
I've gone through a lot of phases in my UFC career, and no one's been able to beat everything that I've done. And so, I really feel like I'm a blessed guy. Thanks, Dana, for making this happening. But I don't think anyone's going to be able to do what I've done, and I'm just very happy to be able to come in here and face a guy like Daniel Cormier.
For Dana, can you talk about why you made this a non-title fight and at 205 pounds? It would seem if it's going to be a non-title fight, why make Cormier get down to weight, that sort of thing?
Well, Cormier's got to get the weight because he's a 185-pounder. You know what I mean? He has fought at 205, but at the end of the day, his whole career has been at 185 pounds. And it's a 3-round fight because Anderson's coming in on short notice. You know what I mean? To go for the full fight. And believe me, we talked about that. If Anderson comes in and would stop Cormier in the first 3 rounds, it would be for the title. And Anderson's philosophy was, listen, if I beat Daniel Cormier, people are going to know I'm the guy anyway. But it's a little bit better getting that belt. We have to agree to disagree on that one. But he wants to fight 3 rounds. He's coming in, and he's, Anderson's given Daniel the opportunity to fight, to make money, and to to perform on UFC 200. So if Anderson wants 3 rounds, if Anderson wants 2 rounds, we'll give him 2 rounds.
And for Anderson, can you tell us what weight he is at right now? Is there any cutting to be done, or what weight is he going to come in at?
I'm on weight, and thankfully I don't have to cut any weight.
Thanks. And just one last one for Dana, for you. I guess it was announced also that Miesha Tate and Amanda Nunes will now be the main event. Is that
Right.
correct?
That's right.
Okay. Can you talk about the decision there? I guess we all kind of assumed it was going to be Brock and Mark after everything happened.
Yeah, so like I said, last night, you know, when I was sitting right here and Daniel was standing here, we were a little shell-shocked, and my whole team was trying to regroup. You got to understand, you guys really don't understand. When something like this goes down, I don't know if you saw the front of the building at the T-Mobile today, they were ripping down John Jones' picture, and we were changing all the commercials, and my staff literally been going 24 hours, more than 24 hours, you know, with this thing happening. And, you know, as you sit back and you sit down and you start to regroup and start to lay things out, and now we have Dan, Mousasi, Anderson, one of these guys is gonna get the fight. And then you start looking at 3-rounder. Miesha is the woman who beat the woman who beat the woman. She's the champ. I mean, what Miesha accomplished a few fights ago, you can't disrespect that. She should be the main event she deserves to be. The other title fight is an interim title fight. Miesha Tate deserves to be the main event. It's the right thing to do.
Dana, over here to your right. What was Daniel Cormier? I mean, obviously we saw the embedded. He wanted to fight. So what was his reaction when you called and told him and talked to him about Anderson?
No, every person I called him and talked to him about it, he's like, yeah, cool. He wanted to negotiate for Anderson to fight at 210. I said, he ain't fighting at 210, man. They're going to say no to that. And he said, just ask. Anderson said no.
Question for Anderson. I know you've kind of become friendly with John Jones over the years. What was your reaction to the news about him, you know, testing positive, dropping out of the fight? I mean, what was your reaction to that?
You know, I was sad. I know he went through a lot, and I know he was very well prepared to fight Daniel Cormier. But, you know, with the USADA coming into the UFC, things have gotten a lot more professional. We have to watch out for everything that we put in our bodies, every supplements, and things can happen, you know. So I think something happened, and I hope that he doesn't get mad that I took his place.
How quickly after you heard the news did you call Dana or the UFC and say you wanted the fight?
I think about 2 hours later, I called my manager, Ed, and he called Dana.
Literally when I walked out that door last night, they called me.
And last question, obviously just your thoughts on Daniel Cormier. I mean, obviously he's the light heavyweight champion for a reason. He's a phenomenal wrestler. You know, what are your thoughts on how you match up with him?
Eu acho que vai ser interessante, né? Eu vou ter que correr bastante dele.
I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to run from him a lot.
No, I'm joking, boss. I'm joking. No, I come to fight.
And Anderson, right in front of you here. Scales for weigh-ins open in about 10 hours. The fight's Saturday night. What's your process between now and fight night? What do you have to do to be as physically and mentally prepared for this as possible?
You know, I was coming to Vegas regardless for some UFC commitments, and I came with my kids. So, you know, we're going to do as what we were going to do before. We're going to go to the mall, and we're going to have some ice cream and hang out.
Obviously, Daniel Cormier is the champion. If Anderson does beat him, could this set up a potential rematch this time for the title?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yes!
Yes, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the theory is since DC is the man and he beats the man, then I guess it gives him maybe a shot at facing him for the gold.
Yeah, we'll see how this thing plays out. Listen, I mean, anything can happen. You guys know how this sport is. The sport's crazy.
And my other question is to Anderson. Obviously, the dream fight has always been between you and GSP, but this is a big fight as well. How does this compare to that dream matchup? And in a lot of ways, is it a bit bigger considering you're on UFC 200?
Of course, it's a great challenge fighting in this event, and obviously I wanted to be fighting in my own weight class for the belt, but, you know, I'm here, and it's a great challenge for everything that I've done through wins and defeats and everything, so it's a great challenge for me.
And just speaking of your belt, obviously a lot of people trying to figure out who Michael Bisping should defend his belt against next. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you could choose between, obviously, Dan Henderson and some of the other guys, who do you think you'd choose?
Olha, se eu fosse escolher, eu ia escolher o Spider.
Look, if I was going to choose someone, I'd pick the Spider.
That's a shocker. I knew that was coming. We'll take one more question. We got the next crew coming in here for the next press conference.
Can you take us through the process a little bit? What happens between now and fight night? You mentioned having to change the posters, the commercials, and everything. Do you do that again at this point, or is it too close to the fight to really do that? And what do you do to create awareness for this?
So we didn't know it was Anderson until 7:30 tonight. Okay, so at 7:30, we knew it was going to be Anderson, but the team had been making, we had counted on hoping it was going to be Anderson, so they started working on that stuff this afternoon. So yeah, all the materials have been changed, and the things that can be changed. So it's time consuming, it's expensive, and it sucks, but it's what you got to do. Cool? Thank you guys, appreciate it.